And welcome to the Krueg Show as we get things rolling on a Saturday morning, bright and early, 8 a.m. We're off and running. Big day today. Going to be a triple digits here in the Creek. I got youth baseball to watch. I got the coach in the house here in a few. Welcome to the Pig and a Pickle Krueg Show, ladies and gentlemen. Brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in Northern California. Check them out in Emeryville and Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week in Marin County. They are open Wednesday through Sunday in Emeryville. Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in Northern California. You know, we've been going pretty strong with Pig and a Pickle. They've been our title sponsor, and you know, this would be a great time to, as we're waiting on the coach, to shout out our sponsor, Pig and a Pickle, pigandapickle.com on the web. Great restaurant. They're Damon Stainbrook, the owner of Pig and a Pickle, has 2 locations, as I said, Corte Madera and Emeryville. The best barbecue you're going to find. And two awesome spots. Corte Madera is a really cool spot, different place. It's like a restaurant, has a bar, has a patio. It's at 341 Corte Madera Town Center right there in Corte Madera. And they're open daily, 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. or until we sell out. And that last part's kind of key because they actually do sell out. And then they're also in Emeryville. And in Emeryville, they're in a different kind of location. It's the Emeryville Public Marketplace. And they are closed Monday and Tuesday. Wednesday, they go from 12 p.m. to 7 p.m. Thursday, 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. Friday and Saturday, 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. Sunday, they go from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. or until we sell out. So if you want more information, go to info@Pig in a Pickle, Pig in a Pickle, just the way it sounds, not and, Pig, I-N-A, pickle.com. Check them out. They're in Emeryville and Corte Madera, and it is outstanding. Now, just a perusal of the menu. There's a lot of good things on the menu, but one of the things I just absolutely love, the brisket chili is amazing. The brisket chili, they take real pieces of brisket and they put it in their chili, and it's absolutely mouth-watering, fantastic. You cannot beat it. Really, really good. But that's not it. They're not just you can get brisket by the pound, pulled pork by the pound, baby back ribs, chicken. They do the house-made hot links. They have extra sauces. You can go mild or spicy barbecue. They've got a mustard dipping sauce, an Alabama white sauce. I always go potato salad usually, but man, the coleslaw, the ranch beans. My kids love the white cheddar mac and cheese. I'll usually get a cup of brisket chili. Woo-wee. The collard greens, the cornbread. I mean, this is a real They make their own pickles. They make their own potato chips. You got to have the potato chips, which they only serve in Marin County. So check that out. And a Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. All right, we're off and running. As I said in the chat, for those who just tuned in, the coach, I called the coach. I told him, hey, we're going to go. I said, we're going to go at 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific. He got the times confused, thought I meant 11 a.m. Pacific, which would have been 2 p.m. Pacific. So he was running the dog. And when I called him, and he's like, oh my God. So now he's rushing home. He's going to take a quick shower and pop on. So we got about 15 minutes or so before the coach jumps in to talk Niners with us. And I thought we could do a couple things. I got a couple thoughts I want to share with you. One not on football at all, and one not on the Niners at all. But then also, I'm gonna put the video link in the chat. If anybody would like to join us via the video, we don't normally do the phone calls, but I'll do it right here. I'll put the video link in the chat, and if you want to participate via phone call here before the coach jumps in, feel free. Whatever you're burning on this Saturday. Ken says Larry's hungover from last night. Yes, I went out last night in North Beach to Gino and Carlos with my buddy Pete, who's in from Texas, and some of my old buddies from the Stonestown YMCA, where I used to work in the city when I was like in high school and college. Guys I've known for years and years and years and hadn't seen. Some of these guys I hadn't seen in like 20 years. But we got together and threw a few back in North Beach. And, I'll say this, I may want to go to Kinko's at the end of the day and update my resume because I found parking, ladies and gentlemen, parking in North Beach. What? Yes. Actual parking in North Beach. I'm not making it up. I found it. It was great. It was amazing that we found parking in North Beach. At the, I don't know if it's the audience should be laughing. In North Beach. Hey, yes. Parking, ladies and gentlemen, in North Beach. Yes. Yes, thank you. Thank you. Tip your waitresses, 2-drink minimum, parking in North Beach. That deserved a little bit of an applause. Or maybe even a little cha-ching. Because I saved a little money because I'd have to pay a parking garage. So that was kind of nice. But first I got a complaint, and I want to throw it to you guys. It's kind of a moral dilemma as we get things rolling. By the way, when the coach stops by, we're going to the live stream's entitled "What Could Possibly Derail the 49ers Season?" So we'll talk about all the different things that could possibly derail the 49ers season. And if you want to jump in, please do. We'll also talk a little bit about Colin Kaepernick wanting to return, a little bit more quarterback talk. We'll find out what the coach is burning on. There's a great, our buddy Rohan Chakwarthi on 49er Web Zone has a terrific article out today. I guess it was put out yesterday. He says, who will be the most important backup for the 49ers in 2023? We will debate that as well. And then we're going to play a game this morning called Hype, Hope, or Hindrance. And I'm going to give the coach like a bunch of names. Oh, the coach is here. Look at that. Hype, Hope, or Hindrance. We'll play that game as well. And then I'll throw them some individuals, and then we'll just go with who we're most hyped about, who we have hope for, and who's going to be a hindrance to the Niners winning the Super Bowl. Coach, good to see you. Towel off, my man. How was the run?
Good?
How was the run? I was, I can fill for you if you want to take a shower and get comfy.
No, we ain't here, man. Let's go, man.
All right, let's do this then. Good to see you back for, I decided that, your appearances on the Krueg show, we should hype them with like Roman numerals like the Super Bowl. So
I saw that.
Coach Krueg 1. Today is Coach Krueg 2.
Hey, man. So what do you want to talk about today?
Well, I was just saying, there's a couple things I want to get to. I want to play a little game that we're going to call Hope, Hype, Hope, and Hindrance. Okay. I'm going to give you a name, and you're going to say that you've got hype. You want to hype that player, or you can go the negative route and say, you know what, they're overhyped. Mm-hmm. You have hope for that player or no hope, and then if is that player going to be a hindrance to the 49ers winning the Super Bowl? Okay. We'll also get into Kaepernick a little bit, and I entitled the live stream "What Could Possibly Derail the Season." We'll get into that in a second. But why don't we start where we finished last time, where we talked a lot about the quarterbacks, and we'll just get into that for a few minutes, and then we'll jump.
Okay.
What do you think? I mean, the quarterback discussion always has new wrinkles, I'm pretty much new angles.
On it.
Go ahead.
I'm settled on it from a standpoint of I know what I feel like I have a good base. You can't know where you're going if you don't know where you're from, right?
Right.
So my biggest thing is trying to figure out who pulled the trigger to get Trey, who wants Trey, who wants Brock, and who wants Sam. And once you kind of understand the genesis of how everybody came into the organization and understanding that being with the 49ers for 7 years, knowing that we're at the service of our system, right? We have a process, we have a system, ergo meaning we have players that fit inside of that system. I'm pretty much clear on how they want to do it. Brock is number one, right? Brock is the guy that they trust. It's and who cares about how they came up on him? We're getting close to week 1, right? So now all these narratives are kind of starting to become pointless once real ball is coming, right? So what we want to do is understand that Brock is number 1 coming in, and they want him to be healthy, and that's the plan. That's the A1 plan, right?
Yep.
If Brock is not ready to go, I believe that the narratives that have been set up and the inertia that seems like is already being pushed in a certain direction is that Sam will be ingratiated to be the backup, to be number 2, right? I feel as though that a free agent pick coming in right away, the Niners couldn't play any games with the quarterback situation, and I believe that they're not gonna have Sam there without putting him out there first. As far as, and honestly, if Brock goes down, let's put ourselves into that mental space, right? If Brock goes down, that's essentially our number 1 guy going down, and the fans are going to be wanting a little bit more behind the buck. They're going to be wanting a little bit more stability, and they can sell that midseason. Hey, he's had 50 starts. He's gone through the whole training camp. He's had his chance to see Brock play. He's had a chance to have real reps throughout practice. Sam is going to be there to right the ship. I feel like with Trey is just attached to too many outside things rather than just his play, right?
Like
Trey
what?
has. You said what, Larry?
Yeah, like what's he attached to?
The investment that he's attached to, all of the picks that are put on Trey, the franchise label that was put on Trey, the development of Trey, all of that kind of comes back to the forefront with Trey playing, right? We do know that if Trey has 2 to 3 good games, right, the fan base is going to all be looking at Kyle to see what they can do with this. I mean, you're the genius. You're the offensive guy. You pulled the trigger on this guy. So I think the organization is very full well of knowing that Trey is a bell that you can't unring. You know, like once he gets on the field and shows promise, it's going to be very hard to pull him off the field. So that's why I feel like Trey's going to be he's going to get the last step back. And essentially, if we go with the history, they're all going to play, right? Because so they're all going to get a chance to play. So that's the way I see it. I believe that Brock is the quote-unquote leader in the clubhouse. I feel as though that's the player that both the coaching staff and the organization both can get on board with, right? That he's the guy, and the locker room, which is a big part of this. So Brock is the guy that they want to start. He's the guy that played the 7 to 8 games, did exactly what they wanted him to do. And the most important part for Brock is what? He runs the scheme the way Kyle wants it to be ran. He sees the field the way Kyle does. And for what it's worth, inside of this organization, that's worth its weight in gold, right? If you can operate this scheme.
You know, it's to me, it's just about timing. It's about their timing. If this were like D'Amico in year 1 with Houston, then like D'Amico's going to have no problem putting CJ Stroud on the field and playing him. And if he's raw, he's raw. And if he makes mistakes, he makes mistakes, because it's year 1 of that regime. The Niners are in this Super Bowl window and want to win now. And so they're all about, you know, let's try to get the quarterback who's ready to play right now. I kind of look at it like this, and I brought this up this week, and tell me what you think. I mean, it's a little bit of a stretch, but I see a lot of same similarities between the Montana Young thing as I do with Purdy and Lance, from the standpoint of, I don't look at, and I'm not, you know, I looked at Joe as a guy who was overlooked, went in the 3rd round, but had all kinds of intangibles. And that's really all Brock is. He's just an overlooked guy who just has a lot of great intangibles. There's bigger guys, stronger guys, faster guys, guys with better arms, guys with better height, guys who throw a better deep ball, guys who, you know, all throughout football. But what Purdy clearly has is he's got some intangibles. And Joe had intangibles. But then there was Steve Young. And Walsh was enamored with Steve Young. And Steve Young in those first 2 years in Tampa had 11 touchdowns, 21 interceptions, and like a 2-15 record. Just not a good record at all.
Mhm.
And by the way, we have people now popping into the chat because I told them we'd do some video calls. If I do some video calls, we'll do it after the coach is here, because I'm going to focus on the coach T. But I appreciate you jumping in on the in the green room. But I see Trey a lot like Steve Young. Awesome tools, smart, really, really wants it. All the things that Steve Young had. Incredible. Steve Young had great athleticism. He had a better arm than Joe. He had a stronger, more durable body than Joe. He could take on linebackers. Joe had to run away from them. Steve had a bigger arm than Joe. Steve had faster, he was faster than Joe, even though young Joe was faster. But Steve was not ready to play when he came to the Niners. And I know, he was not very good in Tampa. He had had way more of a career collegiately than Trey has had to this point. So, but I see them very similar. And I really think that it took a long while. People don't realize Steve Young, most guys, your 20s is your prime in the NFL. Well, Steve Young's prime was 31 to 37.
Right.
And I'm not saying Trey's not going to be good till he's 31, but I think it's going to be more like a Steve Young thing where, he's got all this talent and he's going to get it together and figure it out. And do you have the patience to endure it? And I think if they do, they're going to wind up with a really great player on the back end of this thing. But if they don't, then they're going to move off of the player. And the only difference is there's a cap now. And, now you're going to have to pay that player a lot. But
right. That was right what I was about to bring up.
Yeah. But I mean, if they can get on the same page financially where Trey's like, yeah, you know what? I have only played 1 year of football since high school, and I do need to play. But you know what? I don't want to go anywhere. I like being here. I want to be here, and I want to be here long term. And maybe the Niners are like, hey, maybe the Niners, we can take them at their face value when they say, we haven't changed our opinion about Trey. Well, if you haven't changed your opinion about Trey, that means you like him because you drafted him 3rd overall. And I still see the traits that make him the prospect that he was. But he's clearly raw. And so my only question would be, can they get on the same timeline? Can they work this out financially so that they could keep him on the roster, develop him, play Brock this year, play Trey behind him or behind Darnold, wherever you want to play him, but don't make a decision if you're going to keep him or move on from him in September. Don't make that decision at the trade deadline. Heck, don't even make that decision right away. Be in this thing for the long term. Quarterbacks can play 20 years in the NFL. Quarterbacks can play till they're 40. This kid's 22. So to me, if the Niners get off of the Trey Lance, I don't think it was a mistake. To me, it wasn't a mistake to draft him. The mistake is going to be to give up on him too soon. That to me is coming into focus now, that there's a lot of people that are like, you know what? He can't do it. We're moving on. I think that's hugely, hugely premature. And I think that's going to make them look really, really bad on the back end. And I understand, but I also don't believe he's ready to play right now. I believe them when they bring in Darnold and these other guys and say that Trey's really raw and whisper to all these insiders that he's not ready to play. To me, Coach, you coach football, you would know. If a kid has played 1 year of high school football at the varsity level, or 1 year since high school, I should say, not 1 year of high school football, 1 year of football after high school,
college ball.
Yeah. There's a lot of development there. So, but I also know what I'm looking at when I'm looking at the traits that he has here, and here. He can throw it. He's an athlete. He's a great kid. He's smart. So all of the boxes, as far as I'm concerned, are checked. But he's not. But it's going to take time. And my question would be, Trey, it's your call. I'd go to him and say, Trey, it's your call. What do you want? Do you want out of your career to play right now? We'll find some NFL outpost that will take you on, and you can play maybe right away. And some would argue that's what you need. Or do you want to stay here in this great organization with all these weapons and this premier play caller and sit behind Brock and develop? And whenever he gets hurt or whenever an opportunity arises, that's when your opportunity is going to arise. And if you struggle initially, we're not going to lose our S over it because you haven't played a whole lot. We're in this for the long term here. Do you want to be in this for the long term here in San Francisco, or do you want to play somewhere else right now or right away? And whatever he wants is what I would do. If he says, you know what, I need to play and I need to play now, then fine. We'll find some team and take whatever we can get and chalk it up as a loss. Or if you want to be here, we'll redo the contract. Make it more palatable after this year. Leave it alone this year, but next year, if we're in the same spot, we'll redo the contract, make you the backup, and we'll develop you here long term. And whatever he wants, and I'd be fine with that. That's kind of how I would play it, because I'm more fearful of moving off of Trey and losing out on that potential. Let me adjust my camera. Then I'm not as worried about the draft, what they've used so far to draft him. I'm more worried about pivoting off of him when I know I like him as a prospect long term and seeing him blossom somewhere else. I don't want to see that. I think the fans will be real negative on the regime if it happens. It'll make the Niners look bad. And I'd rather him stick around. And if it takes a year, it takes a year. If it takes 2 years, it takes 2 years. People would say, oh, come on, Krug, that's crazy. This guy was drafted years ago. Give up on it already. No, you drafted a super raw, super intriguing prospect. Now commit to it. You committed to a really raw prospect. Now go through with it. Or you can't really say that your opinion hasn't changed if you're willing to trade him or cut him this year. To me, then there's no doubt your opinion has changed if you're trading him or moving on from him this year. But if you really think long-term he was a great prospect and you still think that, then if he's willing to be here and you love him, redo the deal and let's do it. Let's go through this. And if it takes a year, if it takes 2, I'm fine with that, because guess why? Because Steve Young wasn't any good till 31 and he made it to Canton. And this kid could be an awesome quarterback, but it may take until he's 24 or 25. That would still be that'd be 5 or 6 years before Steve Young ever really got it going. And so we act like it's like, oh, we can't wait this long. No, you can't give up on this kid this fast. That would be my message. Give me your thought on that.
Well, I hear what you're saying, and that would be like glass half full, right? That's like best case scenario for Niners fans, and from your perspective, that definitely for Trey as well. I see it a little differently, Larry. So I look at our regime in its totality, right? All 6 years. And at the time, you and I both know that there isn't a perfect Super Bowl ready team. There's the echelon of there's an elite level that makes you Super Bowl viable, right?
Right.
There's no specific player that says, "Oh, we're ready to do it now." It's just like, no, we're in the hunt. We can do it with what we got. And I felt like that's where the Niners were prior to getting Trey. With the way that we lost the Super Bowl in 2019 and how we ended our 2020 season with Jimmy being hurt, I thought that plugging a player in is when you say that you're a player away, right? If you're a player away, you plug in a tackle. If you're a player away, you plug in a guard or a running back or a receiver, right? When you say that you're going to go get a quarterback, you don't plug in a quarterback. A quarterback is an admission of a complete shift of narrative. This is what we're going to do, right? And that's what I believe that the Niners were doing when they traded up to go to 3. The investment alone, because remember, the investment to get up to 3 had nothing to do with Trey, right? It was the chance to get their guy. And for me, adding on a quarterback didn't mean that we were one guy away. It meant that they had made it, had they come to Jesus moment, understood we beating our head against the wall. We're getting ahead of this. We know that we've done our level best with the roster that we have. We're ready to win the Super Bowl now. It's a quarterback issue. We got to circle the wagons and get it done. We got to shift narrative and move forward, right? That's what I believe they were doing when they spent what they did to get Trey Lance, right? And on top of it, it made even more sense because Trey was so raw. He was developmental. It seemed like something that they were really looking forward to pushing forward. But now that we are 3 years in, it's clear that Trey was drafted to be in addition to what was already happening. And you can't do that at quarterback. You can't plug in a player at the quarterback position. There's got to be a little bit of give and pull. There's got to be a little bit of ingratiation. And for me, that's where I start understanding truly what this coaching staff and this organization wants to do, because it's emblematic of how quickly they hopped on Brock. Brock is giving them exactly what they need. They want a piece that's going to accentuate what's already here. This offense being ran is not going to be about the quarterback. And proof of that is Jimmy. Jimmy was our starter for a long time, and he was the leader in name. He was the leader in spirit because he was loved and liked in the locker room. But a part of the reason why Jimmy was loved and liked is because Jimmy knew how to tend to all of the pots, being the leader without being the leader, because we know that the quarterback tends to be an extension of our play caller, our offensive coordinator, our head coach, right? So now, for me, now that I understand what the quarterback position means here in this scheme, then you know that bringing in a young quarterback who doesn't have any type of experience under him and needs to be developed, if he can't fit into the mold of what's already placed here for him, then that's where we get into the time element of developing Trey and putting things around Trey to help Trey. But Trey's got to be healthy and make sure that he can keep himself upright along the way, which we know inside of this style of offense is very hard to do, right? So the way I see it is the investment in Trey garners us to be able to see what he can do. If in my perfect world, we would start Brock Purdy on the pup. Start him on the pup to just make sure that that elbow is good. He's still the leader in the clubhouse, but at least we give Trey 4 to 6 games to see what we got. And that's my coaching experience, which is minimal. I'm nobody big, but from what I've seen, it's impossible to tell what a player can do during practice. And I think that the players that have been thrusted or placed in the starting position as far as quarterbacks is concerned, they've almost done it in the inverse, where Jimmy was having bad practice. Jimmy already won his 5 games before he started having his bad practices, throwing 5 picks and having bad practices and things being whispered about him. But he had already shown what he can do in game time situations. Brock had shown what he could do in practice enough to the point where they had kept him, but they didn't elevate him. It wasn't until he was thrusted on the field and Kyle had to put the offense around him and do the best they could to make sure that they keep Brock in the most successful positions. And then we saw what Brock could do. But we don't know what Brock is going to look like in practice with number 1 reps, especially against our defense. That's yet to be seen. But when it comes to Trey, he's only played 3.5 games, and we're talking about what he can do in practice. And over 30% of what he does is a run package, which is very peculiar to you and I, Larry, because you and I both know that it's hard to gauge what a quarterback can do in practice if he can't get hit, if he can't get touched.
The problem is, Coach, is that when you go look at his North Dakota State stuff, they ran like sometimes, or they passed like sometimes 8 to 10 times in the game, and they ran like 45% of the time. Right. So it was, I mean, they passed the ball, 45 times a game, or they ran the ball 45 times a game. They passed the ball on average about 15 times a game. So now I went out last night with my buddies drinking, and now it's starting.
I heard about you, man, all the way from over here.
Yeah,
I heard you howling
seriously.
in the room last night.
I'm, if you could, I've got stuff coming up through my pores here. No, but to me, that's the issue, is that he came out of a run heavy scheme where he didn't throw very much, and then he only really had 1 year of college football. Mm-hmm. I knew he was raw. You knew he was raw. Most people knew he was going to be raw. But the question was, how raw? And now I think we're getting a sense of it when they're suggesting that even if Brock, and I agree, I wouldn't rush Brock back. I'd put him, on the IR or pup list or whatever.
Just pop him. I mean, if he's
not ready to go, if he's ready to go, he's ready to go, and they're going to go with him. But if he's not ready to go,
you and I both know that injuries are not bang bang. It's not. There's literally not, one day. What's the difference from the day you're cleared versus the day before you're not cleared? Nothing, right? It's a feel, right?
Totally. And give him more rest is not going to hurt him. The question is it going to hurt the team? But what we got this week was the talk from Albert Breer saying, hey, you know what? Even if Brock is, if Brock ain't ready to go for the first month or 6 weeks of the season, that he's like, they're going to probably go with Sam Darnold. And so to me, if that is indeed the truth, and there's a lot of people want to, call all these guys, anybody who has a report like this, all of a sudden people are attacking Albert Breer's credibility. Let's just let's just pretend that Albert Breer is the most credible source there's ever been. And let's just say he's right. If they're going with Darnold, that to me should be a glimpse into exactly how raw they think Trey really is. I don't. They might think that they look. Go ahead. You don't see that?
The reason why I don't see. I'm so sorry for interjecting.
No, go ahead.
But the reason why I don't see that is because Trey was bought with blood money, man. Like, you can't. I don't see them elevating Sam over Trey as an indictment on Trey's ability. I see them elevating Sam over Trey for a lot of different reasons. First of all, let's just follow the money, right? Trey's got a 5th-year option coming up. And if they play Trey and Trey actually gives us 3 to 4 games, that means that they got to buy the season with him. We're going to be on top of that. And that also means that 5th year is in play. And it also means that the other plans that they have, their cheap quarterback room ceases to exist. So that's one side of it, right?
So you're saying that they don't want to pay. You've said you think that they don't want to pay Trey next year.
I think that Trey has been on this roster long enough that, short of Trey blowing the doors off the walls or winning a Super Bowl, they don't believe that he's worth the type of money that they would have to pay him when it comes time for him to pick up that 5th-year option.
Well, I mean, let's just lay it out there for what it is. I looked up every third-string quarterback in the league. They make between like $800,000 and $1.5 million. He's got the 5th highest cap figure on the entire team, making $9 million. Darnold's got the 12th highest cap figure on the team. He makes $5 million. So one of those guys is going to be QB3 if Purdy's the starter. So the Niners will be paying their third-string quarterback either 5 times what the other teams are in the league or 9 times what the other teams are in the league.
Follow the money, Larry.
But I don't think it really – I don't know, though. I don't think it really bothers them because they know they're paying Purdy $800,000 and it's locked in. Yeah, for now. But, I mean – I don't want to give up on Trey Lance. You've gone this far. We've gone this far, and he hasn't played. But you know what? I don't blame him for not playing because he's gotten hurt. They redshirted him, and he's raw. But I would blame the Niners if they give up on him at the end of the year and be like, you know what? I mean, I had a guy on this week who believes that they're going to move off of him at the cutdown. I don't want to move off of Trey at the cutdown, and I don't want to move off of Trey at the trade deadline. And to me, if you drafted a super raw player, then don't pretend after a few years that he wasn't raw. He is raw. But don't pretend that he doesn't have great traits. He does. That's why you drafted him. All I'm saying is you started this project. Let's see it through to completion. And you have games in the present, and it's okay to prioritize whoever you think's going to win those games because there's only one team that gets the bye, and you want to have that NFC Championship game at home. And I get all the reasons. And what I got from Breer's report was that they feel like if they put Trey out there, that he would make mistakes that would cost them games early on. Do I know that that's a fact? No, but that's what I'm getting out of Breer's report. I personally, based on my eyes, I've only been to 20% of the practices. I think Darnold and Trey look pretty similar, and I would go with Trey just because of the upside. But what Breer said is they're not going with upside. They're going with the more who they think is more polished, and they think Darnold's the more polished player, so they're going to go with Darnold. I'm okay with that, I guess. This is it. I'm okay with going with Darnold over Trey as long as you're sticking with the Trey plan. But if you're going with Darnold over Trey, and then you're going to move off of Trey, I don't want to move off of Trey until I know what he is. And you know what I'm saying? So it's like, I don't feel comfortable about moving him until I know what he is. I don't need to see him play in week 1. If you're telling me that Sam's more, Kyle knows more about this than I do. Not only that, he's seen all the practices and been in all the meetings. So that's a huge advantage. I suspect that there's a possibility that Trey could be a bust, but guess what? I'm not ready to say that, and I'm really not ready to say that without seeing him on the field. But if he's not ready to be on the field, I don't want to give up on him until I see him on the field. Here, I'm paying him. And if that means that I have to pay him next year, I'm paying him. And I'll figure out the money part as long as he still wants to be here. Because I still want him here. If I'm the Niners, I would go to Trey, hey, we want you here. And Trey, do you want to be here? Yeah. All right, we're cool. Now let's figure out the money and let's move forward and let him develop as he develops. Because the bigger issue, we're all in it. We're also micro. If we back away and take a macro view of this thing, you're going to not regret drafting Trey. To me, I don't have that much regret about drafting Trey. I have a huge potential regret of getting off of Trey before his 24th birthday when Steve Young wasn't good for 7 more years after this and made it to the Hall of Fame, where Kurt Warner didn't even enter the league until 4 years after this point, and he's in the Hall of Fame. Quarterbacks, it's not like running backs. You got to think long term. And I get the sense I'm fine with Darnold, but I'm not fine with just going with Darnold and washing your hands of Trey, because I think you're going to look really, really bad on the back end. That's where I'm at.
Well, I agree with that. And I feel like also the Niners really don't have any control over a lot of that, right? They don't have any control over whether Trey wants to stay here or not, depending on how he's felt here. They don't have control on how the narrative is going to be played on starting third overall pick that's been on 2 teams with over 50 starts over your own third overall pick that you spent 3 first-round picks and a third-round pick for. Like, that's not going anywhere, right? And I understand that the Niners may have good intentions, but what's in stone is that if you play Sam over Trey, then Trey as a professional athlete has to protect his own brand, right? So if Trey as a quarterback and the number 3 overall pick, there's certain positions in Trey's enclave where he would almost be forced to ask for a trade after the season ends if they play Sam over him, because they would know that there's no way they would pick up that 5th-year option. So he would already be shopping and essentially be auditioning for his next team.
The 5th-year option is how much?
It's like
is it 15 million or something? Like
15. Yeah.
I don't know what it is actually, but I mean, I'd still pick up that option. You're paying your starter $800,000. You could pay your quarterback room. You could get another young quarterback in there and still have a very inexpensive quarterback room. I mean, what are the alternatives? You're gonna pivot off of a player that was raw because he's raw, and then what's your message to the fans? He's more raw than we thought. It's like, because then ultimately,
but that's what I mean. But honestly, Larry, that is the message. He's more raw than we thought. That's really, if you want to
take
get down
the time to develop him, then give him more time. I mean, I that would be my thing. And I mean, there's no minor leagues in the NFL. If there was, you'd send him to AAA. You'd let him play for 2 months, and then you'd call him up in December if you look great. You know what I mean?
The Niners knew that before they drafted him.
I know.
They
probably misinterpreted how raw of a prospect he was. I mean, Coach, you coach football, so you know that there are so many nuances to playing the position, and he could still be a great prospect, and he could really. I mean, we all saw Alex Smith at the end of his career. Alex Smith was really, really close to being a Super Bowl caliber quarterback until that leg got wrecked because he kept getting smarter and smarter and smarter. He knew where to go with the ball. Alex Smith as a rookie was like totally non-functioning. And Urban Meyer said it on draft day. He said, you know what? He's going to be completely nothing until he knows the offense. And then once he knows the offense, then you're going to start to see it. That's what he said about Smith, who we coached at Utah. He's like, he's not going to be good until he learns the offense. But once he learns the offense and knows all the nuances, he's going to be really good. And he's going to do the work. And he's smart enough and he's athletic enough that if you have patience, he's going to get there. And somebody asked me, give me your evaluation of Alex Smith. And I said, you know what? I really believe Alex Smith is going to be damn good. I said, I think he's going to be a Super Bowl winning quarterback, but I think it's going to be, it's going to take a lot of time because I think he came out of a gimmicky system at Utah. There's going to be a lot of development. It's going to take a number of years and he's going to get there. Well, I almost was right. He almost got there. And then he got his body wrecked. I see Trey very similarly. He's a great prospect. Right now, he's a paper prospect. He's smart, checks the box. He's athletic, checks the box. He's got a strong arm, checks the box. Does he love football? He checks that box. Does he love the process of football? Check that box. All of the things that I want in a quarterback, he checks off those boxes. He just needs time. And the question is he going to get that time? And what's better? Is it better for him to go somewhere and play, or is it better for him to sit in a great organization and develop behind the scenes? And then when he gets his chance, he's maybe the next Alex Smith. Maybe he has a Steve Young type career where the best of Trey Lance is from age 26 through 35 instead of 22. I'd hate to get rid of a 22-year-old guy or 23-year-old guy and never – before he's fully developed, and then watch him go somewhere else and develop into something, because that's what I think is going to happen.
Yeah, I do too. I see that's basically exactly what we're. Sorry, Larry. I see that's exactly what is down the pipe for us, because the market dictates how we get to deal with these players, right? He's ours for now, right? Until he moves on and he becomes viable to other teams. I think it's rich for us to be saying that Trey has no trade value. There's a market for Trey.
People say that part of it is we have no idea what the price tag is. I bet you the Niners would move off of him, but they want something good, and he's an unproven commodity. He's going to have to show, the beauty of the NFL is the same way if we take Breer and all these guys at their face value reports that there's no market, trade market. If we just took that at face value, I don't find that totally hard to believe, because everybody's looking about now. But you know what? As soon as he goes into one preseason game and throws 2 touchdowns and runs for a third and looks really good, suddenly there will be a burgeoning market for him. So there'll be a market if he plays well.
Let's put a pin in that. Would it be a burgeoning market, or will the fan base start looking at the coaching staff like, why can't you work with this?
Well, no, I think both. I think You're right. I think the fan base will be like, hey, don't give up on him. This guy's got talent. And there'll be other people who will say, oh, look, now he's worth something. And then this is where we're going to find out how the Niners really feel, because ultimately, I think at that point they will get offers. But he's going to have to show something. He's going to have to show something in a game. And then if he shows something in a game, there'll be offers because there's not enough quarterbacks to go around, and we all know it. But if he doesn't show anything in a game, then you're still looking at a very expensive raw quarterback who's not ready to play. And in that case, they may not be getting offers. I mean, if a guy's making $9 million and he's not ready to play right now, I can understand why people were like, yeah, there's not a lot out there. I wouldn't, if I was a GM and somebody else had a $9 million quarterback that I was intrigued by, but didn't think was ready to play, I'd be willing to give a pick, but it would be like a 5th round pick. It wouldn't be a 1st round pick, 2nd round pick, 3rd round pick.
I mean, that's what puts us in the catbird seat. I believe that Trey isn't right for what the Niners want to do, the scheme. But I believe they know he has skill. I believe they know that Trey can play. I just know that they can't. They would have to move way too many important pieces for them to nurture Trey, and there will be some lost games behind it that we may not even be a viable team for a Super Bowl.
But why is he not good for their scheme?
Let me finish this.
Oh, yeah.
But I also believe that the market of the NFL is volatile. And as soon as Trey gets on the field, and if he shows promise, the cat is out the bag, right? And what happens is that, damn the trade market, there's going to be the front office and there's going to be pressure from the fans as to, all right, well, he's obviously shown more from the little 4 games that you hid him from us. So now that we've seen a little bit of promise, what say you, right? And I feel like the Niners know that with Brock, the coaching staff gets to restart their clock. He's fresh. He's going to struggle. We know Brock is going to struggle because it's inevitable. It's the NFL. Has nothing to do with Brock, right? We just know he's going to struggle. And when he struggles, they already have their canned speeches ready and their plausible deniability of getting him together because they can ride on the 8 games that he played against the bottom half defenses of the league, and we shocked everybody. So that's cool. But at the end of the day, they know that if Trey shows promise, then that running meter from 2021 starts back up again. And you know that promising quarterbacks don't get traded, man. Coaches get traded. Man, coaches go. Quarterbacks stay. Coaches go. You know the deal. So as soon as Trey comes up here and shows what they said they had, but they can't do anything with it, it's like, man, you know the deal, man. We're going to move on. And then also, let's just be real. You know, there's a conversation going around here like Kyle is the only person that can put together a great roster. It's like, man, he gave us the IP. We got the intellectual property. What I'll tell you one thing. If the next coach or regime that we look for, the number one thing that we're all going to be looking at is that he can develop quarterbacks. So we know what the problems are. We know what the missing piece is, and it's developing the quarterback. But you know that the best teams in the league, their quarterbacks don't run schemes. The offense is at the service of the quarterback. So that's our issue. We have a core issue on how we run our team, right? Our quarterback doesn't run the team. Our quarterback runs the system. The best teams that we go and play up against in the playoffs, their quarterback runs the team. So it's a completely different initiative.
Okay, a couple things. One, Brock didn't beat bad teams. I mean, he beat the Commanders. They had the 3rd best defense in football last year. What
was the Commanders' record?
I don't know, but their defense was ranked. The number 1 defense in football last year were the Niners, as far as total defense. Mm-hmm. Number 2 was Philly. Number 3 was Washington. He beat them. Number 7 or 8 was Tampa. He beat them.
Let's stick with Washington. So with Washington, he beat them. But what was his numbers against Washington?
I don't know. I mean, I don't have them in front of me, but I mean, they won big too. I mean, my point is just that you can't say that Purdy didn't play good defenses. He played the 3rd best defense.
No, he didn't play good teams.
The 8th best defense.
We didn't play good teams. We played this. We had the second.
We beat Dallas, Tampa, and Washington, all top 10 defenses.
Dallas, stop.
Well, Dallas is, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So he beat 3 of the top 12 defenses. He beat Dallas at 12. He beat Commanders and he beat Tampa. Tampa was
Tampa was
8.
Tampa was by far his best game, in my opinion. But
He also beat Seattle in Seattle when he didn't practice all week.
We limped across the finish line with Dallas, okay? And Washington is not a good team. No matter
not a good team, but I mean they are a good defense. They were the third best defense in football according to total yards.
Yeah, I mean that's according to total yards. That's cool. We
third in total defense. I'm just saying. I'm pushing back on he didn't beat anybody. He beat 3. He beat 3 of the top 12 defenses, including Washington. That was number 3. But Larry, I mean,
who had the weakest schedule in the NFL down the stretch?
I mean, I guess you're going to say the Niners, but I don't know, man. I don't know. He beat Seattle twice. He won in Seattle, came back from 10 to beat the Raiders.
Seattle was not a good team.
They were a playoff team, but they were 26th.
And
26th
in
defense.
They were a playoff team in name. You know that.
Yeah.
They're not a good team. They weren't
But I'm just saying, he beat Washington, he beat Tampa. Those defenses were ranked 3rd and 8th. So he beat 2 of the top 8 defenses in his stretch. Okay, let's get to this. I think that it's I've said everything I need to say about the quarterbacks. I mean, we've got this one from Usagrad. He's like, Larry, come on, Brock beat the easiest schedule, beat the easiest teams. He beat you know what? I would push back and just say he beat the teams that were on the schedule. You know what I mean?
And you know what?
He beat the teams that were on the schedule.
We can say that. We can say that Brock beat NFL teams, and that's great. Brock did an amazing job, and he played outside of his frame. But we can also say that we weren't exactly playing against the creme de la creme of the league either.
Well, but Trey lost to the Bears, and Trey lost to the Bears. The Bears are one of the worst teams in all of football.
Right.
So I mean, and he's 2-2.
But you see,
we don't want to. We can't do this.
But you see how when we went to Brock, you immediately went to Trey. You see what I'm saying?
No, I didn't immediately go to Trey. I'm saying we're having this debate between Brock versus Trey, and you're saying Brock didn't beat anybody, and I'm saying he beat 2 of the top 8 defenses in football, and Trey lost to the Bears.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I understand.
If we're going to talk about who played who, then it seems pretty relative. It seems pretty relevant to bring up the Bears.
So let's do it. Trey's first very game, he played against one of the best defenses in the league when they played against the Cardinals. All right,
and they scored near 0 points, I think, in the first half of that game.
Right. When he was running all over the place, he looked like Mike Allstott out there.
First career start.
Yeah, so he looked like Mike Allstott out there. Trey also had an amazing game against the Texans.
He had an amazing second half against the Texans. They were being shut out at halftime.
Right, but hold on. We also talking about our 3rd pick, right? We're not talking about Mr. Irrelevant who got fed the scrap reps. We're talking about a guy who's supposed to be developed and prepared for it. So hold on. So when we look at Trey on the field, one of the things that we have to understand about Brock versus Trey is that the coaching staff would love to put their name all over what Brock has done. But the facts is that he didn't have enough reps and didn't have enough development to get for them to put their name on what he gave us in the first 8 games. What we do know is that every time we see Trey play, this is an indictment on Kyle's coaching, his quarterback development, and how they've gotten him together. So you got to look at the fact that whatever you see in Trey is what is the level best of what we can do with quarterbacks in this organization. Because Brock was Mr. Irrelevant.
But I mean, somehow, if we're going to attack Shanahan for his lack of development of Trey, don't we have to credit Shanahan for his positive development of Purdy? The reality is that he's not really developing either guy. Just one guy was super developed because he played 47 games at Iowa State, and the other guy was super undeveloped because he barely played at all at North Dakota State. That's the reality. It's not really about Kyle. Kyle's a subplot to this whole thing. Kyle's just there to call the plays. I don't.
Larry,
how can we say that? How can we blame Kyle for Trey and then credit him for Brock? But I mean, he drafted both. He drafted both guys. One guy's played well. One guy hasn't played.
Hold on, wait a minute, Larry. He's the offensive coordinator and head coach. How does this not fall at his feet, Larry? I need to hear this.
Because you've got Brock Purdy playing undefeated football. So he drafted him. He drafted him. Are you really blaming Kyle Shanahan for Trey Lance's rawness? He drafted a raw quarterback.
Oh no,
and he's raw.
Not. I like the way you phrased that. That was cute. Not Trey Lance's rawness. Okay, I'm not blaming Kyle for Trey Lance's rawness. I'm simply asking Kyle, what have you done with his development thus far? All right, what have you done? Because as far as we're concerned, Trey went out to Jeff Christensen and got his mechanics together. So right now, Kyle is a subject matter expert at his scheme, right? But what we're asking is, what are you giving us as a football coach? Not an offensive coordinator, not your scheme, not a play caller. What are you giving us as a hands-on, tangible coach? That's what we need to see. And you can't tell us that you don't see enough of him and you're not putting him out there during games. Literally nobody in the league gets to do that. But we get to?
There's just, once again, you've got two quarterbacks. He drafted both. One's playing well. The other is not playing or played very little. And we'll see this summer. As far as what's he done to develop them, I don't put a lot of credence into shorts and no pads. The game's played with pads. Mm-hmm. The game's about being live. When the quarterbacks are wearing the black jerseys and they're running around and you can't touch them, it's a totally different deal. Sam Darnold has looked really good in practice, but you know what? He's played NFL games and he hasn't looked particularly good in those games. So I don't put too much credence into the practices.
Sam has deserved this name.
But he may have.
Sam Darnold.
No, but I mean, Shanahan may have developed this player. We're gonna find out this summer. Right. I mean, how would we know if Shanahan has developed this player or not? He played, he got hurt, he was out for the year. So it's not like he's come in and played poorly, and we can sit there and go, Shanahan didn't develop him. Now, this summer, if Trey comes out and he doesn't get any better and he doesn't play any better, then I guess you could point the finger at Shanahan a little bit. But still, to me, even that's like, if we're pointing the finger at Shanahan and saying you haven't developed him, I would say, show me that he hasn't developed. He hasn't even played. The same way we don't know what he is good, we don't know what he is bad, and we can't blame Shanahan for what he is because he could be great. So maybe there's all kinds of development that's happened, and we're going to find out this summer. I mean, we just don't have that information yet. We're going to find out this summer if Trey's a lot better. If Trey's a lot better, is that because Shanahan developed him? Is that because Christensen developed him? Is that because Trey developed himself? I mean, at that point we can speculate, but we don't know what he is yet. He hasn't played enough for us to say he's this or he's that. I won't even say that Shanahan's ruined him because I don't think we've seen enough to decide if he's ruined. You know what I mean? I'm not even there yet. He's just raw, and there's no doubt that he's raw. And now that we're getting indications that Darnold may play over him, we're getting to me that to me blows my mind. But it also may be a glimpse into the fact that Trey may be more raw than we anticipate. And we're going to find out. We're going to find out this summer. To me, his motion looks better, but is that on Christensen? Is that Shanahan? Is that just Trey getting healthy? I don't know. But to me, he does look better than what he looked last year. And George Kittle says that he's dramatically better. So how did he get better? Did Kyle have a hand in that? Did he not have any hand in that? I mean, I don't know. If Trey, I get the sense that if Trey plays poorly, people will be like, Shanahan didn't develop him. But if Trey plays well, it's going to be like he developed with Christensen. Well, you know what I mean? So it's like if the guy is, so Shanahan's only going to be to blame, but if he's good, it's going to be Christensen. So I look at it from a standpoint of fit. Right. And let's just go back to the very beginning. Everybody was the number one thing was Trey Lance couldn't have gone to a better situation. Right. The fit. It's such a great fit. Right. But
the truth of the matter is that the fit is about what Kyle wants, right? It's not about it's not a fit whereas he can come in and learn and be nurtured and have things put around him. It's the fit of what's already set in place for you to succeed, right? And I feel like that's a better situation for Brock because Brock played more games. Brock has more development. Brock was able to get touched by other quarterback coaches who burned mechanics into him, where Brock can go out there and use his own subject matter expertise to utilize that to matriculate through the offense, right? Brock is coming with his own skill set, whereas Trey needs to be, I feel like Trey needs to be developed holistically. Trey needs the mechanics development. Trey needs to be able to know how to read defenses, raw defenses certain ways, right? Trey needs a to Z developmental track, right? And that's not what this team can do. I don't even know if this coaching staff can do that. We don't even know if Coach Shanahan is good at teaching his scheme or if he's actually good at coaching. You know the difference, Larry.
Totally. We've been talking about it a ton. Yeah, there's a difference between being like Mike Holmgren working with, Brett Favre, smoothing out his mechanics and everything else, to being an awesome play caller, play sequencer, game strategist. So, I think Shanahan's an awesome play caller. I think, I'm not sure how much development happens at the NFL level, period, anymore. Because, Coach, the way it used to be, the quarterbacks lived in the facility. Now it's like, they chase you out of the facility because of the rules, and like, hey, you can only work so much here. I even feel like these John Beck, Jeff Christensen quarterback coaches are born out of the fact that there's limits to how much time the guys can spend in the facility, and so there's limits to how much they can actually develop. The NFL is an incredible league that has no developmental league and no real developmental strategy. So if you do have a raw quarterback, there's really nowhere for him to develop. So, I mean, it's a catch-22. It's like, hey, man, I need a job. Well, you need experience. All right, but where do I get the experience? On the job. Well, I need a job to get the experience. You know what I'm saying? It's like, that's where Trey's at. He needs experience to get the job, but you don't get experience in the NFL without having the job. So it's like, how does he improve? And he's trying desperately to work with Mahomes and work with Christensen and go through the reps. And he is getting better. And all I'm saying is, instead of forcing him out there and let's all make an evaluation week 1 at Heinz Field against a really killer Steeler defense, and be like, so what, are we going to rush him out there in week 1 and he falls on his face because Steelers are really good in week 1 at home, and then all of a sudden we're going to be like, you know what? He's too raw. He's too this. He's too that. No, the Steelers are too tough, and our line wasn't ready for them, and there's other factors. But it's not going to get told that way. So I'm totally fine with not getting him out there until you feel like he's ready. And so what? Guess what? I want him ready right now. You want him ready right now. The fans want him ready right now. Kyle wants him ready right now.
I got to interject, Larry.
You don't want him ready right now.
I don't know if Trey Lance is good or not.
I don't either, but I do.
And I'm not right. I'm not here to defend that I think he's good. That I think that Trey Lance is what
you just want to see it. You just want to see it.
I want to see him. And you don't get to tell me that he's not good. And you're telling, it's like I'm pissing on your head and telling you it's raining. You're not going to tell me that a kid is not good and he's only playing 4 games.
I agree.
That's an insult to my intelligence.
Play them all preseason and let's find out.
That's an insult to my intelligence.
Totally.
And for me, if Trey isn't good, then we move on from them. But they know that's where we end the conversation as fans.
Yeah.
They have to go and close the door and answer for why they did what they did. That's the whole conversation.
There'll be plenty of time for the blame game for sure.
Oh. There's a lot of time for the blame game.
Yeah.
A lot of people have been paid. Everybody's been paid. So all I'm saying is that don't tell me that he's not good. Don't gaslight me and tell me he's not explosive. Don't tell me that you don't like what you see in practice. All of that is bullshit. That's cop-outs. Play the kid. You picked him, play him. And you know your ass gonna get fired if you play him and he ain't good. That's why. Play him. It's time. It's time.
Well,
it's
in
time.
the preseason, he has to play a lot. And if he plays well, then I agree with you. One thing you're not going to be able to get away with, or they won't be able to get away with, if he plays well, you gotta put him out there. You got to put him out there over Darnold for sure. Now, if you want to start with Purdy because of last year, that's one thing. But I agree with you. He's got to be next in line. If Trey plays well in the preseason,
Trey, I'm gonna be honest with you, man. And Larry, this is just football man to football man. If they start Sam over Trey, you know that's gutless. You know this is a family show, but that's a B move.
Well, but we're saying this before we see him in the preseason. I'll hold off on answering that based on it. That's if he plays well in the preseason. Trey,
that's saying you just running from your job, man. You running for your job, bro. You want to go home. But
coach, what if Darnold outplays Lance in the preseason?
Then they gotta pay the piper.
Well, they'll be blamed for sure. Yeah. But I mean, don't you think Darnold's got to play behind Purdy if he outplays Trey in the preseason?
Yeah,
that's what it's about.
If Sam outplays Trey, then play Sam.
Yeah,
but you still got to answer for Trey. It all counts.
Oh, I know.
My point.
Well,
my point is that as fans, we're being gaslit into believing that even if we get what we want, they still don't have to answer for what they did. We're going to be fans way longer than Kyle is going to be the head coach of this team, right? And if he cannot get the quarterback situation together, then it's time to have a discussion because he's done everything else. And we can keep that in the building. So that's the real deal, man. He got to know how to – this quarterback situation, you got to answer this, man. I'm tired of no more of the smoke and mirrors, man. I done seen enough shifts. I know you got a good offense. There's a lot of teams with good offenses. I know you can put a team together. There's a lot of teams with good defenses and can put it together. We can already get guys to outsource and bring it on the defense. You got to show me what you need to do with quarterback. And you also got to answer for the 3 first-round picks that you traded for the guy that you can't develop. You need to answer for that. And if you can't, then you need to either outsource that. You need to demote your offensive coordinator responsibility to somebody else so you can be more of a head coach. But we need to shift some things up. It can't be status quo anymore with you kicking the can, just telling us to believe and trusting you. Nah. I need to see something.
Well, there's no question. It's going to be an interesting summer for sure. Green Glass Full says, am excited to see Brock Purdy reach his very high ceiling. Luke Luna says, my brother, man, DA coach.
Oh, my man, Luke.
The coach.
Boy, Luke.
Okay, let's hit a couple things else before we get out of here. Interesting article by our good buddy Rohan on 49er Web Zone. He says, who will be the most important backup for the Niners in 2023? He's got a picture here of Cleveland Farrell. Heck, now I'll say this, maybe one of these quarterbacks. It might be Darnold, it might be Lance as the most important backup.
Yeah.
I'll say this, I'll go with Jordan Mason. I think Jordan Mason's the most important backup because he's not viewed as the backup, but when he gets in there, I think he's going to take off.
That's huge. I also do too, especially with, and I don't even want to say this, but it's just the truth. With Elijah's injury history, we're hoping that he can stay healthy, but I do agree with that. Christian McCaffrey completely changed the landscape of our offense once he got here, right? I'm talking about quarterback's best friend, explosive outside zone running, leadership, what he brings to the field as far as just consistency. I mean, Christian McCaffrey is worth his weight in gold. And if Christian goes down, we're really going to need somebody to actually make the run game work, right? So you know how we do things offensively, Larry, especially with our run game. Christian is going to be the tip of the spear, right? But he's going to have a myriad of packages because Kyle's going to have confidence in him. However, we do know that if we cannot prove that we can run the ball, essentially we don't have a passing game because everything's built off of the play action passing game. So I do agree that Jordan Mason, I don't think that he's going to get as creative packages as Christian McCaffrey is going to get. I would hope that Kyle would ingratiate him earlier into the season so he just knows what it feels like to get some carries under his belt. But I would agree. If we cannot run the ball, this offense will not work. That's just flat out. We can't start with the pass and get into the run. Nobody believes that we're passing the ball. If we can't run the ball, we're dead in the water.
No doubt. The run game is going to be huge for the Niners. It always is. And they're going to have to run it. And it starts up front with their line. Can their line block for the run game this year? But there's a lot of key backups, and one could be a quarterback, one could be at running back. I think the backups in the secondary could be interesting. I agree with Rohan that the backups behind Bosa and Drake are going to be huge because they play. I mean, this is the one area where the Niners rotate guys in and out all the time. The backup offensive linemen rarely play. The backup defensive linemen always play.
Always play.
And so it's important that those guys can play. Two last things before we go. One,
no, you got time, Larry.
Colin Kaepernick.
Right.
Kaepernick is now 35.
Mm-hmm.
His name was in the news this week. He's done a bunch of different media things, and he came out and he basically said that he's still working out, and he basically said, I've heard a lot of. He said they were asking why didn't the Raiders sign him. He says I've heard a lot of excuses over the years, but most of the time it ends up, we're going to see how the guys that we have do. With the Raiders situation last year, that was Jarrett Stidham and Nick Mullins, which to me just compare resumes and capabilities on top of the workout and the feedback. It's like, okay, cool. So he basically says that he's out there, that he wants a job, and that, suggesting that nobody's giving him a job.
Right.
What is your best guess? Is he going there are people that feel like this is disingenuous, that he doesn't really want to play. Other people say, no, he absolutely does want to play. He's not being given an opportunity to play.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think? Are we ever going to see Kaepernick, or is that ship sailed? Is he blackballed from the league internally and nobody said so? What do you think's going on there?
I don't think we'll ever see him play. I don't think that he is blackballed. I don't see it that way. I feel like Colin made a conscious decision to use his platform for social justice. And there comes responsibility with that. I feel as though that you got to know life ain't fair and the world ain't fair. And that's what makes it great, right? Because you got to be savvy enough to be able to traverse through it. And I feel like there are a lot of things that Colin did for himself. And I feel like there's a lot of things that Colin did for others. But what you need to understand is that whatever decision that you make, before you embark on those decisions, you have to understand where those consequences lie. So from what I understand is that you can't be, in my opinion, inside of a league and use your platform inside of that league and then in turn want to come back and play and make money from that league. I mean, that's a bit rich. But I just don't think that's the way the world works. And I think Colin knows that. In a way, I do believe that he is doing it to kind of shed light on the fact that he is being marginalized. I don't think he's necessarily being blackballed because that's just not the way football works. There's a lot of guys that have been let go from teams because their personal profile or their footprint, if you will, is a little bit too much dynamic for a team atmosphere. It's hard to have somebody has a lot going on inside of a locker room when you're trying to build a football team and you're trying to win games and you're trying to be one voice in one organization. Colin's window with playing, I believe, is closed. And for him to be trying to, essentially keep it open, I feel like it is a bit disingenuous. He understands where he I think he understands where he stands in the fabric of our nation, and I think that he needs to make a career out of what he's doing. But you're not a football player anymore. You're an activist, and trying to be a professional football player at 35. Even if his last name wasn't Colin Kaepernick, it would be an uphill battle anyway. So it's just not pragmatic. It's not genuine. And I just think that sooner or later, he'll be the last one to find that out.
I would love to see him go play somewhere. If you want to play, go to the CFL. He hasn't played in 6 years. I mean, I didn't realize it was that long. 2016 was the last year that he actually played. So 17 didn't play, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. That's been 6 seasons. This year will be the 7th year that he hasn't played. So if he really wants to play, I would try to get a job in the Canadian League, and it's a throwing league. He's got a huge arm. Put up some fat numbers. And put a little pressure on these teams to sign you.
It's hard for me to care about this, Larry, because football is a privilege. It's not a right.
No, I know.
It's not a right.
But he is a talented guy. There was no question he had a lot of talent. It's just a matter of, I think there's a lot of people that feel like he's saying that he wants to play, but he doesn't really want to play. But I don't know. I really don't know where his head's at. He doesn't do a lot of media. He doesn't do any interviews. We don't really get to hear his perspective. I would love to have seen his workouts and what he looked like. I do think, nice. I mean, I'll say this. I mean, if it's really just about getting a job, there's 100 guys that are going to get jobs in the NFL at quarterback. He's definitely one of the top 100. And yet he's not going to have a job. So does that mean doesn't have a job because he doesn't want one, or doesn't have a job because nobody's offering him one? I don't know, but I'd love to see it. I would absolutely love to see it.
These guys got first world problems, man. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly.
That's the first world issue, man. You a millionaire, brother. I know you want to play quarterback, but there's other things you could be doing, bro. I'm sorry.
And you know what? His contribution going forward, if you really want to make an impact in this world, and I think everybody wants to make an impact, maybe his impact is more as an activist than
double down
as a player. Yeah.
Yeah.
Why not?
That's what I mean by that. It's like you started, you embarked on this, you understood the consequences and the ramifications that would come around and taking on a lifestyle like this. And, you gotta be true to this, not new to this. So, good luck in your new life.
Joey says Cap's last season was a hell of a lot better than people want to admit. And that was on a team that was absolutely trash. I think it was like 16 touchdowns, 4 picks, something like that. Okay. Outside, give me what you think could possibly derail this season. If we're listing things that could derail the season, injuries obviously are number one.
Right.
I would say an injury to Bosa would be number 2. Injuries overall would be number 1. But I would say you can't lose Bosa. He's the guy you really can't lose. Trent Williams probably is on that list too, but Bosa for sure. But as far as what do you think? If I said, give me something that you think could derail this season for the 49ers.
Well, for me, I understand that our defense is ran through Nick Bosa and our defensive line is the tip of the spear, but I really don't know if we have an answer for losing Fred Warner. If Fred goes down, Fred pretty much is the traffic guard and the leader of our defense. He has a lot of job descriptions, gets a lot of people in order. I think that if we lost Fred, that would be a big deal. And again, Brandon Ayuk going down would be big, in my opinion. I think that Brandon Ayuk is pressing to pretty much supersede the scheme and just be one of the best receivers in the league. And I believe that for what Kyle wants to do through the years of being a fan of his and watching him being a coordinator at all of his outposts, Kyle likes to push the ball downfield, right? And I feel like Brandon Ayuk, outside of Brandon Ayuk, there's really nobody skilled enough to really push the ball downfield and really honestly run the entire route tree. I think he's the only receiver that we have that can run the entire route tree at an elite level. So it would just it would cap off what we do offensively if we lost BA. Also, BA gives us a viable passing threat on the outside at that X position. So I think he's really underrated, and this is a passing league. And I know we go at it from the other end, right? Because we're a running team. But at the end of the day, when it's time to win games, we got to put that ball in the air. And I feel like losing BA or possibly Fred would be a big deal.
I agree. Yeah, Fred Warner. I do like Marcelino. I'm going to have him on the show this week. I do like some of their young linebackers. That actually dovetails right into our final topic. I read an article this week on Niners Nation saying that Jalen Graham, the linebacker from Purdue, is that the hype train is getting ready to pull out of the station, is the way that was termed on Jalen Graham. And I'm a huge fan. I love what I've seen at practice too. He hustles. He's fast. He's
sideline to sideline.
Yeah. I mean, they list him at 6'1", 220, but man, he sure looks bigger. He looks bigger, and he definitely plays fast.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got good instincts, and I think he can play coverage. But I'm going to give you 10 49ers.
Okay.
And I want you to put them in one of three categories. Hype, hope, or hindrance. Okay, we'll play hype, hope, or hindrance. So, and you can take it any direction you want. As far as hype can be like Jalen Graham, like, hey man, the hype train's getting ready to pull out of the station, or you could say hype is overhyped. Hope is hope, of course, and then hindrance is just that you don't think they're gonna. I'm
not too sold.
Yeah, you're not sold, or you think it's going to be a problem area. All right.
Okay. All right.
Here we go. 10 49ers, hype, hope, or hindrance. Drake Jackson.
Hope.
Yeah. Hope for Drake.
Yeah.
I agree. Believe in Drake. I got tremendous hope. Jake Moody.
Hype.
You're not there's the 60-yard, the booming leg.
Yeah, not only that though, but because we play complementary football, right? That's our modus operandi. That means that we're gonna have to really get those chip shots, like those 3 points, man. Getting in the green zone, those things are really gonna matter. And I'm excited for Jake Moody. You kind of got me talking about him because I really love subdued warriors. I love like quiet guys that play the game because you know that there's got to be something under there while they're even around us. So I like, and he's kind of cocky. You know what I'm saying? He's got dry humor, which I love. So yeah.
I mean, there's been a lot of hype about the kicking for sure. Brock Purdy.
Hype.
Trey Lance.
Hope.
I agree. Darnold.
Hindrance.
Most Niner fans would probably say the same. I think I'll say this: if Sam and Trey play evenly in the preseason, and Sam for whatever reason starts over Trey,
oh my God,
there's going to be a lot of people complaining.
Yo, let me tell you something. The way I see it is that Sam and Trey being neck and neck, it's like, oh, Trey obviously gets the nod. It's hilarious to me when people are like, oh, it's close. And I'm like, why would you even admit that it's close? We picked Trey. Why do you even want people to know it's close? Like, I don't even get Sam. I don't even get it. I don't get it.
All right, Brandon Ayuk. Hype on Ayuk. Deebo Samuel. Hope that he stays healthy, or hope that the hammies and the soft tissue injuries stay away? Or
with Deebo is, I hope he was serious when he said that he knew he had a bad season and that he's coming in here to be a leader and play hard. I hope that's true.
Colton McKivitz.
Hope.
Javon Kinlaw. I agree, by the way, on the McKivitz hope. Yep.
Yeah. Javon, I'm going to say hype. and I'm gonna
Hype.
tell you why.
Okay.
I'm gonna tell you why. Javon, in a way, is the defensive line iteration of Trey Lance, in my opinion. He had a guy that was there before him that had a lot of success. He got drafted here, and he was asked to be fit into a scheme. But the only difference between Trey and Javon is that Javon has a health issue that the Niners knew about, and I feel like they're working with him. And I feel like I'm so encouraged about how much this young man is, about how this man has been fighting for his career, right? Physically, I mean, his story is already special, right? He's got a rough story. He shouldn't even be here, right? And he's worked on his body. He had some maturity issues that he worked through, and I'm gonna put it like this: we would not have known how bad that knee was, if it wasn't for how much he's been busting his ass since he got here, right? And a guy like Javon, what he's doing with his body, the fact that he lost all of that weight and looks as good as he still does, I'm hyped to see what comes out on the other end for him. I'm happy for him because he could have given up. He could have went in the tank. I'm hyped for Javon Kinlaw. And another reason why I'm hyped for him is that he's going to be a rotational player behind another interior guy, and Javon Hargrave. And I feel like he can kind of sit back and learn and watch and get selective reps. I want Javon Kinlaw to make it. The human side of me wants him to make it. I'm hyped for Javon.
We got this one from Max. He says, hindrance. He can't play, was a giant liability in the biggest game of the year. All right, but you know what? He played, slated,
but he shouldn't even have been on the field with that knee.
Yeah, and also they're not leaning on him. I mean, they're really not. They've got Eric Armstead. They've got Javon Hargrave. I'm going to go Hope. I'm going to go Hope.
And for me, I don't mind anybody who goes Hope or Hinder anyway. But for me, I know how hard it is for big men, and that kid has a lot of ability, and it's hard to do what he's doing. I'm hyped for him. I want him to make it.
Last one, Cleveland Farrell.
Hype.
I'm gonna go hindrance because I think they're gonna lean on him, and he's got 4 sacks he's got 10 sacks in 4 seasons.
Yeah,
he's
but
a defensive end, man. I need more than that.
This is the thing, Larry. A lot of these guys get brought in here to do way more than what their skill set can take. And it's no mistake that we get a lot of guys that come here that were drafted high and they go to other places, and once they get here and their workload is reduced and condensed, they start playing faster, they start playing with more confidence, and that's the type of player they are. I feel like, in a way, I'm gonna float something, but I feel like defensive end and pass rusher is almost becoming like the new running back position in the NFL. We're pushing so much for the position, and there's so many of them out there that at this stage of the game, like, look at this free agent market now. Look at how many viable fruit pass rushers are just laying around. It's almost like having a pass rusher is like renting an exotic car in Miami for a weekend. It's like, yeah, it's cool to drive, it's cool to have, but who the hell wants to pay that $2,500 oil change, right? So for me, I like how we ingest pass rushers that come here, because I look at what Cleveland Farrell was asked to do in Las Vegas, right? He ain't going to be asked to be doing all of that shit here. He ain't going to be doing all of that, right? He's going to be putting his foot in the dirt, putting his foot in the ground, and getting off the ball, right? And he's going to be doing it at 30 to 40% of the game. I feel like a guy who was an ACC Player of the Year, top 10 pick. I mean, he's legit. He's not just some bust that got picked. I feel like he's a good player that had a lot put on him. And now I feel like we'll be able to see him grow because he's a pro now, right? So it's kind of funny that we keep doing this with everybody else's D-line. I hope everybody's ready for when this happens with our quarterback. When Trey Lance goes somewhere, they're like, oh, yeah. He's already had all of the doldrums already. We're ready for it. Like, it's going to be so bad. So
Coach, good seeing you. What do you got cooking on the 4th? Yeah, fireworks.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm in the nation's
What's your
capital,
tradition?
so
What is your do you light off fireworks? Do you do we're gonna do a whole barbecue? You can't
yeah,
light off fireworks in Contra Costa County where we live, so
yeah,
we'll go out to my brother's place where they can light off fireworks. He's a judge, but he's a pyromaniac, so he'll light off a bunch of fireworks. We'll barbecue. It should be 100 degrees in Sacramento.
yeah.
That's where we're headed for the 4th. You got big plans?
Yeah, my dad's birthday is around this time of the year too, so we're just gonna get together and touch and agree and fellowship and hug and hold hands. This weekend I'm going to go shoot my crossbow, so I'm going to go sight it in and get some things going this weekend. So I'm excited.
Awesome, man. Moral dilemma question. I'm at a kids baseball game yesterday. Okay. It's an all-star tournament, and my kids' team was pretty big time. They won a bunch of games, but they got up against a team that was really good this yesterday. The team that they're playing was just raking, just couldn't get them out. Incredible, talented team, very impressive team. I got to the game. They were already down like 13-0. They proceeded to take like a 21-0 lead. There's a guy in the stands who is literally on every pitch, all right, Jimmy, way to go, Jimmy. How about, all right, Bobby. All right. Like trying to, and it's like, I'm just sitting there going, you're up, and his team's winning 21-0. And he's on every pitch.
He's cheering for the bloodbath.
I mean, yeah. At what point do you, when you're at what point do you just say, you know what, that's poor sport? Is it poor sportsmanship to be like, let's go, Bobby, let's go, Billy, on every single thing, even when you're up 21-0 in a baseball game?
Yes, unequivocally, yes. That is bad sportsmanship because it's not. It's not a competition anymore, right?
My wife's like, she's giving me the look. I'm like, it's taking everything I have not to say something. She's like, honey, just go back to the car.
Nah, that's such bad sportsmanship. Dude, I
thought it was bad too.
Yeah, and then not for the kids, man. I can say if it was a pro game, whatever.
These are 14-year-olds.
Yeah, nah, bro, that's too much.
Too much.
Like if you're up 21-0, honestly, I'd be kind of looking at the ump. Like, let's call this thing.
Right.
What are we doing?
Yeah. Like let's all go home.
Because you don't want to kill anybody's confidence. Nobody
wants exactly. But I mean, this guy was like, the ball's in the dirt. The kid took it. Good eye. And I mean, they're winning 21-0. It's like, dude.
I mean, honestly, enough. What it is that you get those guys where they just can't let it go. It's like, bro, you're not playing anymore. You're not playing.
Right. Seriously, let's not live vicariously through the kids.
Come on, man. It's not about you, buddy.
Look at Quincy Jenkins. If you don't want them to do it, stop it, Krug. Stop. Yeah, no, I hear you. I know. Believe me, I know the answer. Get them out. You don't like it? Get them out.
Come on, man. Don't do that, man. I played against some guys like that, some coaches like that. Well, it's your job to stop us. Well, stop this fist in your eye.
I'll say this: in high school football a few years ago, worst sportsmanship I've ever seen. It's a high school game. One team's winning 42-0.
All right.
They put in the backup quarterback with like a minute left. They call a run play. They fake the run and go up top to make it 49-0. As the coach is walking off the field, I mean, I'm literally just giving him an earful. I'm just like, you got to be kidding me. You've got to be kidding me. I go, that was the worst sportsmanship I've ever seen in my life. You're up 42-0 in a high school game, and you go play action pass on the last play of the game for another touchdown. I mean, come on, bro.
That's one of those times where we do like, but I coached back in the day. So you remember back when we coached and we used to do tape exchange? Remember we used to do tape exchange?
Yes. Here's ours, here's yours.
Yeah. I would have waited till tape exchange the next year. I'd have let it brew all year. He got his ass on tape exchange. Yeah, let me get your tape from next year, Coach. Yeah, remember last year?
Yeah. Coach, awesome to have you, man. Always great conversation. Looking forward to the Coach and Krug part 3. Have a great 4th. Have a great holiday. If you get a couple days off, enjoy that monster dog of yours.
Oh yeah, he's sleep, man.
He took him for a run. I'm gonna go sit in 100 degrees and watch my kids play ball today. Have a great Saturday, my man, and we'll talk to you soon.
Kev Krueg. Shout out my man Kev. Holding it down.
See you, Coach.
All right, Coach.
There you go. The great Coach stopping by on the Krueg Show. Always fun. Always fun. We agree, we disagree, but what the bottom line is, they're going to play these games eventually. We'll all get all the answers we seek, and this will all start to show itself. The good, the bad, the ugly. As they say, there's nowhere to hide. You know what? You lie, I lie, but the film don't lie. So there you go. All right, let's thank our sponsors, Marin Auto Glass. Check them out, marinautoglass.com, 415-883-3030. Give Marin Auto Glass a call. If you got a cracked windshield, you need them to come out and replace it, they will gladly do it. marinautoglass.com. We're also brought to you by New York Style Italian Sausage, and the title sponsor of the Krueg Show is Pig and a Pickle, 2 locations, Corte Madera and Emeryville. Here's what they look like in Marin County.
So New York Style Sausage was started over 70 years ago. We are the largest producer of fresh Italian sausage on the West Coast.
What makes our sausage in New York Style is really the recipe came from back east, from New York, from Connecticut.
If you look at all of our labels, there's maximum 4 or 5 ingredients, which we're really proud of.
There's no preservatives, no MSG, fresh in, fresh out.
The pork comes in fresh, goes out fresh. There's never any freezing throughout the process. We've always used fine quality cuts. We're never gonna deter from that. It's one of the reasons why our sausage is so good. I guarantee you put our sausage up against anybody else's from a flavor standpoint, no one will beat it, hands down.
Hey, do yourself a favor and do me a favor. Go buy a package of the New York Style Italian sausage. Guaranteed you will love it, guaranteed.
All right, welcome back to the Krueg Show. Hope you enjoyed our roughly 98-minute live stream. We've been on for an hour and 38 minutes. Appreciate everybody in the chat and, of course, the coach as well. Did an interview yesterday, taped it with Warriors first-round draft choice Brandon Pajemski. We're going to have that out on the channel, I believe, at some point today. And then Marcelino McCrary-Ball is going to join us on the show this week, fellas. It's going to be good stuff from Marcelino. Really looking forward to that conversation as well. He's one of my favorites, and one of my guys who I really think is going to take off this year is the great Marcelino McCrary-Ball. And we're just trying to pick a day. We're maybe going to do it Monday, thinking about maybe even going live with Marcelino. So that would be kind of cool. And looking forward to having him on the show. Hope everybody has a great holiday weekend. Beat the heat around the country. Sounds like it's going to be hot here in Northern California. I'm off to watch a little youth baseball this morning, a little high school baseball, a little 14-year-olds baseball, and I got to take off this black T-shirt because I'm going to sit here in the sun. I'm going to be dying, absolutely dying in this black T-shirt. But we're closing in on 20,000 subs. That's right. If you're in the chat, hit like and subscribe and help out the show. Also, you can go to kruegshow.com and you can order merchandise. And if you order merchandise, I will do anybody who orders merchandise of any kind, I will do an individualized video for you. And I got a couple to do, my son tells me, because people ordered stuff yesterday on there. We are closing in, though, on 20,000 subs. We are currently at 19,554 subs, trying to get to 20,000 before training camp. So Charlie Higgs says it was almost 100 degrees yesterday, wherever he is. Yeah, I mean, we're in that time of the year where it is hot. It's hot. I love the hot weather, but I say that until it gets over. I like hot weather when it's like 80 to 90. When it gets into the 95 and up, I suddenly don't like it. And anything over 100, I'm like, oh my God. The dog hates it. The AC runs all day. I mean, it's just Kyle McKiernan says 89 degrees at 9:48 in the morning. Oh man. Oh my goodness. Oh man, that is hot. Now that is hot. Someone says it's a dry heat. Yeah. Joey Nichols, 107 is nice and cool. Try Palm Springs. Oh my God. Yeah, no, I love Arizona, but I love Arizona in March. I don't love Arizona in May or June, and definitely not anywhere near July. And that's where we're headed. So, yeah, Robbie says 90's too much for me. My AC started making noise yesterday. Keep it on prayer, guys. Let's all say a prayer for Robbie 439's AC holding out. All right, that does it for us. Have a great rest of your day. Check out the videos we have at the Krueg Show. Thanks to Kevin Krueger for producing all of those. Until next time, peace.
Yeah, never met a man I've been scared of. Careful, you gon' get exactly what you asked for.